Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Bahamundi. I am one of the owners of Run, Try, Bike magazine. And today we are going to be hosting a fireside chat with Camille Baptiste of Swim, Bike, Run Fun Events. Camille is an athlete, a race director, which means she's also a small business owner. She's located in Austin, Texas, and she puts on events that help beginners participate in all of these sports that we love. And we're looking forward to talking with her and bringing her on here in a second or two. And we think this will last about 30 to 40 minutes, but please press the little question mark button down on the bottom right so you can ask your questions of Camille, and we'll address them as we go forward. And without further ado, and perfect timing. Hi, Camille. Thanks for joining us. Camille, I was just introducing you as an athlete and a race director, small business owner of Swim, Bike, Run Fun Events in Austin, Texas, and how your entity caters to athletes just getting started in these sports with clinics that you guys put on, as well as races all throughout the year. So let's get started with that part of it all. So how did you get involved in endurance sports and why?
Wow, it started with like two things. I was doing Tough Mothers, obstacle course racing and mud racing and trail running, and I hurt my shoulder. And the guy was like, you know what, swimming is a good rehab. And then it kind of opened the door to an indoor try.
Do we have a bad connection?
I don't know why, but I didn't do it.
You're good. Good.
So I hurt my shoulder, and the PT guy was like, you know, you need to go swimming. And at the Y, they had an indoor try. And that was about the spring. And then there was a group called Sisters Trying and MS-150, and everyone was cycling, but I didn't know how to ride a bike. Well, starting to train for that indoor try and then learning how to ride in a bike, all of a sudden now I got thrust into the endurance world beyond half marathon. Started riding all over Texas, started running marathons. Half marathons was like eating candy. And then it just went down. I started to fall in love with cycling. I couldn't get enough triathlons under my belt. Got all the way up to 70.3, and then I got burnt out. And then I hurt my leg tick-tocking with the kids, and then that was it. I decided to become a race director and put on some events. That is the shortest version of that story you're ever going to get.
I didn't know we had to take out social media insurance now. TikToking injuries. Who knew?
I didn't even realize I was TikToking. I was just dancing, but I did a little too much.
Love it. So you mentioned burnout. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know that's something that can happen pretty easily especially for beginners. They get started and they want to do all the races and all the training and everything else. So what led to your burnout?
Oh, doing too much, too fast, and then too long. Started to get involved in 70.3s, and then my circle of friends got shorter and smaller and smaller and smaller because not everybody wanted to ride long. But you know, you do a sprint, you do Olympic, and then you're like, I'm a real badass. I got this. I'm gonna do a 70.3. I'm gonna do an Ironman. Till I saw that $700 Ironman fee, I had to hit pause. I'm like, okay, back up. I could do two 70.3s. I'm all about the quality and the quantity. So I started training for 70.3s, and I have young kids. And most of the 70.3s I was interested in were in the fall or the spring. I realized I was training all year long. And then I was like, it's like a wedding. You got a checklist for the checklist. You got to book the hotel room. You got to plan the routes, the nutrition. You buying special infinite coffee mix with pumpkin. I'm like, it was too much. So I kind of really got burnt out of the whole business of racing because it was no longer fun, but it became like a whole secondary job. Okay, so I got training. Okay, I got to make sure I got the conditioner for the cap. I got to make sure I have my good clothes because I got a meeting after that. Then I have to make sure the pool is open. If the pool's not open, what's my backup for the backup? I just got too much. It was no longer fun. And then I realized, you know what, short court racing, since I like triathlons, I can hang out in short court racing and race more often and have more quality races and more quality of life. So that's kind of how I dealt with burnout.
Interesting. Yeah. As you know, as a person who also went through burnout, I get it, right? It is a part-time job, training and um, planning visits to the race site, especially if you're traveling by plane. It adds a lot of stress. And so that, you know, for me, that burnout led me to get into ultra running and trail running. And so I completely understand where you came from. In the first part of the conversation, you mentioned that's what kind of got you started as in the events space as an event company. So um, talk to us about swim, bike, run fun events. Why did you start the company? And what are you hoping to provide to the athletes that participate in those events? And before you do, can you hit your camera to turn it off and then maybe turn it back on? There's a little icon that looks like a camera because your face is frozen here.
My face is frozen. That's not a good thing. Wait a minute now.
A good picture.
Camera off. How you turn your camera? I don't know all of this tech business. Wait, okay, so off.
And then press it back on.
You see me?
We see a frozen picture of you, but we can hear your voice clearly. So we'll just keep going.
Is it a good frozen or a bad frozen?
Frozen. Got a smile and everything. It's perfect.
All right, all right.
So anyway, talk to us about starting the company that you did and what you hope to provide your athletes and why that's important to you.
So I love creating routes. I love creating experiences. I like hosting dinner parties. And I remember, and I was sitting on the couch rehabbing, the most fun I had was at a local women's sprint triathlon that I think it was the last year. I did it the last year that it was. And we hadn't had one in 5 years in Austin. And I said, you know what? A lot of women, when I tell them I endurance cycle, I do triathlons, a lot of them kind of like throw up their hands like, I don't fool with you. I'm not messing with my hair. I'm not trying to ride in the streets. It's like I'm a really dangerous person. And I said, you know what? I want to introduce more women to multisport, more women to endurance cycling. And the only way to do that is by education and having events that they may feel comfortable coming to attend. Most people don't feel like they're a triathlete or a cyclist until they do a ride or they do an event or a race. So I wanted to be like a kingmaker, like pixie dust, and just you're a triathlete, you're an endurance cyclist. Let me create an event that's not easy but doable and enjoyable for all, so that everyone can have a wonderful experience, but we achieve something epic together. Because we're 1%. Not a lot of people in cycle along. Not a lot of people do triathlons, but it's always better when you do it with friends. So trying to create this perfect mix of more the novice people hanging out with the experienced, burnt out people like you and I, so that we could, be good peer mentors. Then everybody wins together. We kind of get back our joy into the sport. They kind of like, oh my God, they're on fire. They don't want to stop. They want to ride every day. You're like, okay, wait, you need a rest. So that excitement, after we did we did a sister super sprint during COVID, invite only. And we saw, well, okay, I said it was only going to be 10. It ended up being 25 athletes. And I was like, okay, we got something going here. And the women enjoyed it. And so we said, I'm on the couch rehabbing. I can't walk. I'm in a walker. Let me take the race director test and see what's going on. I think I got most of the ingredients to get this off the ground. And that's how that happened.
I love it. That's fantastic. I mean, just being able to, grab the bull by the horns and run with it. So before I ask my next question, for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I'm the owner of Run Try Bike magazine. Today on our Fireside Chat on Tuesdays, we are being joined by Camille Baptiste, who is the race director for Swim, Bike, Run, Fun events located in Austin, Texas. And we're just talking to her about how she started her business and why it's important for her to have these events for the folks and really women only in Austin, Texas. So Camille, when you look at your participation list over the last year or so, are the athletes that are participating in the events beginners, or are they vets who are looking to tune up for another race, or a combination of both? What do you see as far as participation is concerned in your events?
we survey all of our riders and all of for our clinics and for our races, and we have a solid 33 to 40% new. We have a top 25%, like they've been doing this their whole life, and then we have the middle. They've done 4 or more races over the course of 4 or 5 years. They might do 1 or 2 races. They don't consider themselves new, and they don't consider themselves fanatics. So we have a pretty great mix. But I've noticed, and we're tracked. First we were at 25%. Now we're at close to 37%. So we're achieving what we want, which is introducing more women to multisports. And one of the key questions we ask is this your first event? Have you done 1 to 3 or 4 events, 4+ events? Don't ask me. I don't remember. I've been doing it for years. So by asking those questions, we're able to at least get an idea of who's shown up for our races. But that would also help us shape the race a little bit better in our messaging, in our signage, in our volunteers. By the way, I need some volunteers for my upcoming race, but more to that later. But it'll help us make sure that we give them all the tips and clinics that they need to succeed. So when we ask those questions, it's really not because we know that we really want to make sure that, you know, we serve the needs of the people.
Yeah, and it sounds like you listen to the responses that you get so that you can make adjustments to your events. You know, sometimes as an athlete, we fill out post-race questionnaires. It doesn't feel like anything happens with them. So, you know, kudos to you for taking all the information you get under advisement and then using that for future events, even within the same year. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. I appreciate the critical ones, because if one person takes the time to tell you you've messed up or did something wrong, there's probably 2 or 3 other people thinking the same thing. And before you know, you have a big problem, you don't even realize it. So I pay attention to all of those cues. Like the last race, the lady said, I didn't understand your maps. And I'm like, you just go up. It's only one way to go up. But for her, and when I looked at it differently, it would have been nice if I had directional arrows a different color. I appreciate that feedback. My next map's gonna have all the arrows, all the places, so that everybody shows up prepared. I believe knowing, once you know something, it makes you more confident. And so that means she showed up to my race with a doubt, not with full confidence. And that is something that we can't have. So next race, it'll be better.
That's great to hear. 2 things. One, Brian from the Let's Race app says they can see you just fine. So no worries there. You look great. And Mashonda, how are you? Good to see that you joined us. Appreciate you being here. You and I, Camille, have a love for Mashonda and her ability to tell stories and get the most out of us during interviews. So we're thrilled to have her join us. And for those of you who don't know, at Try Beginner's Luck, Mashonda has a great podcast. You can follow her on Instagram as well. So we talked about the events, but you also put on clinics. And what are people looking forward to the most when they participate in your clinics? And is it, you know, just the teachings or being able to get out in an organized manner? What are they looking forward to when you put these clinics on for them?
First of all, I hate boring clinics. I hate something that I could watch on YouTube. I don't want to come and just learn something and then it's over and you don't get a chance to practice. So our clinics are working clinics. We do our best with prepping you on what to expect. We have a workout, we have a format, and we believe practice makes you more familiar. It doesn't make you perfect, but it makes you more comfortable and more confident. So we'll give short instruction and we'll give a lot of instructions like videos and things before. The day of, we'll spend 10, 15 minutes working the format, and then we'll try to do the clinic, whatever that activity is. We did a brick clinic, and it was 1 mile around a track, which was 3 miles. There was a biking cycling track here in Austin. We have dedicated only to cycling. You do 1 lap of that, then you run 1/2 a mile loop. You do that 3 times. So within an hour, you could get that done 3 to 4 times regardless of the pace. Each time, as they switch from bike to run, they see the different things going on with their body in terms of their heart rate, in terms of how they're putting on their shoes. I said, look, we're not worried about all of this. We're just worried about what happens to our body going from bike to run and now bikes again. And then that really, they said, oh, wow, this is great. I've done a lot of brick clinics or transition clinics. I didn't know what to expect. But now each time you can see they got faster in your transition. and they were able to regulate. They wasn't gassing, or they went out too hard the first time. They didn't do that the second time. So we make sure our clinics also have an ingredient of, we have this amazing program called Swipe Zone program, where people like you and I, we buy stuff, it don't fit like that wetsuit you have coming up there. Can you still fit that? But anyway, let's say, I know I can't fit mine, so I'm gonna put it in the donate pile, right? And so the first 15 minutes before the clinic starts, if the clinic starts at 3, we encourage you to get there at 2:45, check in and mingle. And we have a swag swipe program. You look through, you find out what gear you kind of need, you get to mingle. We encourage, if you're a senior or a seasoned person, rack next to somebody new, so that way you guys could kind of meet and mix some things up, because we don't want people to just feel by themselves. And then so they get gear. They get the chance to just shoot the breeze and ask questions. We're trying to be in and out in an hour. We have a lot of moms. I'm a mom. I live cross town. I'm lazy. I want to go home and watch Law and Order. So we try to stay within an hour to 90 minutes. If you want to keep talking, okay, fine, but that's on you. So we try to design, if we get there at 2:30, by 2:45 check-in, 3 o'clock, by 3:30, 4 o'clock, we're done.
That's great.
So that way you get your workout in, you get your mingle in, you get some free swag, and then you have a chance to ask some of the board members or the race director about the event coming up. You get the inside tip. And so that's how we kind of design our clinics, and it's so far has been successful. We've had a great turnout for all 4 clinics.
I'm gonna have to get to Austin so I can learn not to go out too hard. I'm gonna have to take one of them clinics, because I have been 15 years in these sports and I've yet to learn that, learn the don't go out so hard lesson yet, you know.
When you go out for that second lap, when you realize you're taking you longer to throw your leg over the bike, you ain't gonna make that mistake when you go for that next run.
I definitely need to. And then for the swag swap, can people mail stuff to you if they're not based in Austin, if they don't live in Austin?
Absolutely. Our very first donor was the Clay Foundation. I'm gonna call her the Clay Foundation. She was out of South Carolina, and she donated me a box. She said, Camille, I've lost all of this weight. I'm doing 70.3s. I bought all this junk that I thought I need and I don't need, but it's not junk, they're new. She sent it to us.
Wow.
So we believe gear, sometimes one of the barriers to multi-sport, to triathlons, to cycling, is gear, the cost.
Yep.
And they see us pimping out on Facebook and Instagram, and they think it's fashion. It is not. It is function. Yeah. So we want to make sure that, you know, you can try these things till you figure out what works for you, because sometimes you might spend over the course of a season $300 to $400 just to realize those shorts don't work or these shorts work, and then now what you're gonna do.
That's right.
So, and it's not something that you could roll up at Walmart or Target to find, and they don't have a lot of clubs where those types of things are encouraged. You know, you're buying the team gear or you're not. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to wear the older team gear, because by the time they get to the older team gear, it smell like pissing like you've been training for 70.3. Nobody wants that. So she mailed us a box in, and then we had a virtual training clinic because COVID hit. And this is how this works. One of the prizes from the virtual tri-camp, brand new, she had never done it. She was about to do her first race. We were able to send her a suit that she could swim in, because she had weight loss surgery, and she didn't know what to wear. And we sent her a Garmin watch. Oh. She was ready for, I think it was the Haggeston duathlon or the Columbia duathlon. So South Carolina made it to Texas. Texas mailed it to Maryland. Maryland went down to South Carolina or another part of Maryland and Virginia and race. Circle of life. So that it works. So mail it, swimbikeRunFun.net. The P.O. box is on the website.
Fantastic. Question, how they find out about that. Excuse me, you mentioned COVID. So talk to us about the challenges you've had to overcome and maybe are still overcoming in building a race company during the pandemic.
Okay, so I'm talking as a race director, right? As a first-time race director, let me tell you, it's hard. It's a dance. At first we were trying to get permits. Permits got pulled on hold because here in the counties, they would base your permit based on the number of what level of COVID the hospital is at. So if it's level at 5 or level 4, forget about your event. Level 3, level 2, then you have a reduced capacity. So our first event coming out of COVID was Chucks and Pearls, and it was May. Oh my God, exactly a year from today. It's like May 8th last year, our first event.
Wow.
And it had just opened. I had to rent the whole park. We had almost 200 racers. We had a mix of duathletes, 5Ks and 10Ks. I had to rent every little pavilion because they were operating at 50%. I had to rent every little pavilion in the whole park so that I could hit that number to make it legal for me to have the event there from a capacity standpoint.
Wow.
And then for 2 years, a lot of events have moved their dates. They either deferred or moved. For 2 years now, you have some places that now decide to do construction since the world has shut down. So now events that are coming back online that used to be Father's Day weekend, they have to now move to the weekend after. So I'm playing this date dance. What day is good? What this usually happens in August, but now it's happening in September. And so I'm competing against established races when I think I have a free weekend, I'm not. And then most people go with who they know. So I have a bigger hurdle to tell somebody, hey, why don't you try me? I might be better. So I'm playing that dance every day with dates.
To this day still, because of the pushbacks and the deferrals from a year ago or 2 years.
Yeah. So it's we have some races now that are not coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, okay, I can move in, I can slide into that date, right? But by the time I realize they're not coming back, I've already committed to another date.
Right.
So it looks like, what's going on over there? So we've set our schedule for 2022 to 3 events, and we've already see that we need to make some adjustments for 2023, but I won't get caught slipping in 2023 at all.
I hear you. Yeah, I think the thing that athletes and myself in particular, when I first started, was not understanding the logistics and all the balls that a race juggle, from permits to insurance to police and fire and EMT and just everything, and can only imagine the impact that the pandemic and shutting down and events changing and moving things around has done to the race event industry. And so to hear you tell us that you've got 3 scheduled, you're still juggling 2 years later and planning forward so that you don't miss out on anything, I think might come as a shock to some people, because they just think, oh, the race didn't happen or whatever, and they move on with their lives. But kudos to you for putting forth the effort to keep this thing going forward. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So for everybody who's joining us now, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I am the owner of Run Try Bike magazine. We're being joined by Camille Baptiste, who is the race director and owner of Swim, Bike, Run Fun Events, located in Austin, Texas. She puts on all women events in Austin, Texas. She just recently had one event, and then she's got another coming up on June 5th. And one of the things that I love about it, and I'm going to ask Camille to speak to this, is that it's multi-sport. It's not just pure triathlon. They have a women's sprint event, they have a team relay, they have aqua bike, and they have bike run. And oh, by the way, they need volunteers. So if you live in the area, give back to the community. Go to swimbikeRunFunEvents.net and get yourself a volunteer slot for this event. So Camille, talk to us about having these multiple events for athletes to participate in, and why you do it this way.
Triathlon is not the be all and the end all when it comes to multi-sport. It's kind of what we know. Matter of fact, you ask most people what they know about triathlon, they say Ironman. Mm-hmm. I'm not about that life. Triathlon, in its pure sense, is a multi-sport event where you consecutively swim, bike, and then run. Not always in that order, but mostly in that order. And there is a whole suite of variations of multi-sport. Swim, run, very popular in New York. In Europe. There is aquathon, where they swim and then they run. Then there's There is they even have a snow one, a biathlon. I'm like, whoa, multisport is huge. There may be times as an athlete now coming back who's differently able, I can't really run anymore. I could barely walk some days, but I still got my bike skills. I could still splash. Why can't I aquabike? I want people who are new to get in where they could fit in. Maybe they're apprehensive still about the swim, but they could rock the bike run until they see other people doing it. And then I want people who are seasoned athletes or burnt out athletes saying, you know what, I'm going to try this format. Or I could only do this format. I still have a seat at the table. I could still play. I could still show up at the park and have somebody to play with. And so finding that right mix of different types of multi-sport events, and most of the people who participate in multi-sport are much older as well. I want to attract a younger crowd, but I want to get something for the more seasoned or differently able, or the old gals or the old dudes, because we do have our Shiro ride is at the end of the year co-ed, just to kind of correct you a little bit. So I want to make sure that everyone can fit in and have a good time. And that's why we kind of offer these little small variations.
That's great. So, excuse me, as an athlete who's been involved in these sports for 15 years, for me, seeing these different opportunities is fantastic. I'm going to be participating in a relay event at the end of this year. If you had asked me 3, 4, 5 years ago, would I do that? The answer would have been no, I can just go do it all on my own. But life has changed, right? Different responsibilities. We, like you, started a business a year ago, and all of a sudden here we are, and the opportunity to get out and train just doesn't exist like it used to. And so being able to not have to worry about a particular event is great. And I think from a person who wants to get more people involved, getting them involved in multi-sport that might be two-sport, you know, swim, bike, or bike, run, and let them learn about the other components of what could be a triathlon if they so choose. But I do want to emphasize this, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, that Ironman is, you're not about that life. One thing we try to emphasize here at Run Try Bike is that if you want to race Ironman, that's great, but you don't have to. If you choose that sprint distance, Olympic distance, you want to do bike run, you want to do aquathon, that's great. Enjoy it. Don't worry about the outside forces, you know, peer pressuring you, I should say, into doing an Ironman or a triathlon for that matter. Do what makes you happy. And I think your organization does that. Is that correct? Would you say that?
I think so. I would like to say, and honestly, not because that we strive and put that on paper, I actually believe we achieve it and have been achieving it for the past year. And I shouldn't say, and I say we, there's a team. I know I'm sometimes the face, but we do have a team. We're all for women by women. We have one dude because we believe in inclusivity. He sits on our A team and we make sure that we have everybody represented. And when we have everybody represented, and everybody has their specialty, it gives us the chance to meet the needs of the people. For example, I have one lady who's a plus size athlete. She approaches things a lot differently than me. Even though I'm big now, I still think like a skinny chick. I'm like, it's gonna go, it's gonna work. And she's like, no, we need snaps. So just having those little inputs, or there's someone who says, you know what, well, I don't want to run that long, or it's not safe. There's no shoulder here. Can we present a shorter distance because we have more people coming out part of that shorter distance? I'm like, okay, we could do that. So you might find that some of our routes go at 10 or 12 and not 30 or 40 like people like to think they're going long, because we're trying to serve the needs of those who really want to learn and enjoy. And sometimes that means adapting to shorter distances or different types of events.
That's awesome. Where do you see swim, bike, run, fun going in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Where do you see it unfolding? More events, different types of events? What do you foresee? What are you hoping to see?
I gotta grow what I got first. And so right now we have a duathlon, we have a triathlon, and a multi-sport festival in that. And then we have a very big Shiro ride that works for our military veterans and for our cancer survivors. We have a huge amount of women that fall in those categories. We even have one military active duty who's also a cancer survivor. She's checking all the boxes. So I want those things to grow big and want them to grow regionally. Not that it feels like a big rock and roll marathon.
Right.
That's too big. I wanted to feel like, you know what, like either a college reunion or a college orientation. I wanted everyone to feel comfortable, to come back, to try new things, and bring new people with them. And that's where I kind of see it's so crowded in the multi-sport spaces. We're trying to attract new people, and until we attract new people, you hammering the same people all the time. So my job is to grow the sport. I need new people. I want to see new, fresh faces. So even if our races stay small and boutique, as long as they keep being 30 to 40% new people, I think we're happy as a team. We're not here in for money. We're here in for fun.
I love it because that's essentially the stance that we take too, right? Let's keep reaching new people. We're born out of the pandemic and hearing the stories of bike shops running out of bikes. And I just thought, how many people are buying bikes for the first time and don't know how to put a helmet on? Forget about clipless pedals, just using flat pedals, and then seeing all these different pedal options. And so we started the platform for that same exact reason, is let's get more people involved in multisport and educate them so that they stick around and want to participate in things more and more going forward. Really quickly, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I'm the owner of Run Try Bike magazine, and we're speaking with Camille Baptiste of Swim Bike Run Fun Events based out of Austin, Texas. And if you have questions for Camille, as a race director, maybe a race in your local area, you wonder why they do some things, hit the little question mark in the bottom of your screen, type it in there, we'll address it. This will also go live, so if you have on our Instagram account, so if you have questions that you think of later, type them in there and we'll make sure to pass them along to Camille. So Camille, really quickly now, we're at the rapid fire section of our conversation. And so I'm going to ask you a series of questions, just whatever comes to mind quickly. And then I'm going to ask you about the ribs after this. So what do you listen to when you're running? Music, podcast, or let nature fill your ears?
Music.
Favorite post-workout drink?
Michelob Ultra.
What's your favorite post-workout food?
Depends, either soup or ribs.
We're going to have to hear the story about the ribs in a second. Swim, bike, run, which is the most fun for you?
Bike, always the bike.
And I originally typed this as bucket list race, but I'm going to change it to bucket list event. What is it that you want to do as a bucket list event, not necessarily a race?
As a bucket list event. Oy. Ride by Iowa. Ride across Iowa.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense since the bike is your favorite, your most fun. So before we let you go, we got to address two things. One, you need to tell the audience about the ribs, because I tell you, when you were on Mashanda's Try Beginner's Luck podcast, I practically had tears rolling down my face. So share with the audience your story with ribs, and they'll get a good chuckle out of it as well.
Okay, so if I'm racing a 70.3 or any kind of metric century or longer cycling event, I like to have my boned ribs, because my hands dirty, got gloves there. I need to have my boned ribs and a cold beer, even if that means packing my own ice chest or having somebody deliver my crock pot. That's what I said, my crock pot. Deliver my crock pot to the finish line. The last race I did this was Ironman Waco, 70.3. And we had a hotel that was like a block down, and we had my friend's sister decided not to race. I said, okay, good. I'll be done in like about 6 hours. I'll plug in this crock pot, bring my crock pot and put it under, there was a particular team, put it under Georgetown Triathlete tent or this tent. Don't worry, just put the crock pot on the floor. It'll stay warm. Bring my cooler, I had my beer. So after the race I sat down on the floor. And next thing you know, it was like a country cookout. There was some friends who did a relay, and they were from Dallas. So I had coconut water. I had my Michelob Ultra beer. We were all sitting down eating ribs on the grass. falling off the bone. I had plates, knife, fork, everything. Because every time I go to Ironman events, yes, I call an Ironman out. I don't care if they block me. They serve you this cold ass pizza at the finish line that it looked like it been out since Timbuktu. It got dust all over it. I'm like, who wants to eat that? And when I ride and run, I chew gum. You know when you ask me what's your favorite after race? That's why I said soup, because sometimes I'm chewing so much, I don't want to eat. So I'll make my own little hearty soup in my thermos flask. I'm Caribbean, so some of the stuff you buy in the gas station is nasty. So I like my own stuff. So I'll make my soup, put it in my thermos, or I'll bring my crock pot to the finish line, and there you have it. I work hard. I want to eat good.
We might have to start a food truck to just go to races and serve coconut water, cold beer, fall off the bottom ribs as recovery meals for athletes.
So yeah, that's and there's enough. It's usually enough for everybody. But I started that, I don't know, 2015, 2016, because I went to my very first. It was my first open water swim, second try. And it was all female, and they had the most beautiful food, like freshly cooked, and they were serving mimosas. I got spoiled. You want to know why I started women-only events? Because that event, I got spoiled. I had champagne, they had mimosas, it was like brunch. I was like, I need this in my life. Then I go to the next race, and they want to give me donuts and granola bar, and the bananas. It was just terrible. So I just figured we could do better as race directors. Even I am struggling as a race director now in some of the food options and things that we pass afterwards. But that is kind of my ribs and beer story. And everywhere I go, I walk with it.
I love it. We got a question from Brian at the Let's Race app. He's asking, what's your favorite part of race day? So I'll ask you that in two ways. One, when you were an athlete, and now as a race director, what's your favorite part about race day?
Race day?
Yes.
The morning, my morning ritual. I put on my soca, I do my stretching, I wake up lit. I get to the start line like ready, excited. So that's my favorite part. I want to say crossing the finish line because it's done, and then the ribs and that, but really it starts with how I wake up that morning. If I'm not dancing and I'm not singing that morning and I'm not rolling out on the roller before, it's not gonna be a good race.
Was that the same answer for being a race director as well? Is being a race director the same feeling the morning of the race for you?
No, the best feeling as a race director is to see them cross the finish line with tears of joy and emotion, like, oh my God, I did it. Or the seasoned triathlete who proved me right. She ain't trained in 2 years, but she wake up to do my race and didn't die and cross the finish line and still look fab. And I see her face, she be like, oh my God, I made it. And I wasn't last and I didn't die. The finish line, if I could just sit in a corner and watch them cross the finish line without being seen, that's my favorite part.
I love it. So we're going to wind up this conversation. I really appreciate it. We've taken up 40 minutes, but tell the audience about your upcoming event on June 5th.
June 5th, Austin, Texas. I am having a Triathlon Festival. What does that really mean? I have a sprint triathlon, 300-yard pool swim. I'm trying to take all the barriers out. 300 pool swim, 10-mile bike, a little under 10 for those who clock and Garmin really hard. 2.5-mile trail run. We have an aqua bike option where we remove the run. We have a bike run option, not a duathlon, a bike run where will be a time trial start. And we're going to actually have some special award categories for first timers, and like for the aqua bike, fastest swim, for the bike run, fastest bike split. And then we have a 5K trail run. And we hope that, sometimes our athletes don't get trained up or they get injured and say, okay, I'll walk. Or they want to bring a buddy who wants to who wants to check it out before. So we have a 5K event. And we have a relay option. Relays are the most fun under the sun, especially if you swim. You get it out the way and then you party the whole time. So we have those 5 options, but we need volunteers. And I'm picky. sometimes I'll rather do 10 stations or call somebody that I know personally and ask them, can they volunteer at key spots? Because we want everyone to have a safe experience. I hate when you volunteer and it's the high school kid on the phone and he's like, why are you here for? Which way I go? So if you've raced before and you've toed the line and you haven't volunteered since before COVID, and you live in Texas, in Williamson, Travis, or Hayes County, I would send an Uber to pick you if I have to. Come volunteer at the race, give back. You'll be so fulfilled and so rewarding. And you're going to look fab in our volunteer shirt, which is hot pink, by the way.
There you go.
The racers really do appreciate it. And I've gotten more feedback from the volunteers this past race that, oh my God, they had fun and they enjoyed serving others. Because we do it right. That's one thing we kind of get here. We try to give a family boutique feel. We get that right. So volunteer with us. And if you have any tips, even if you can't physically be there and you have any tips or any gently used or used gear, send it our way. There is an athlete that can benefit. And if you're a male listening to here, send it. Our ride at the end of the year is co-ed, which is October 30th. And we set out a big spread just so people can get excited about just having new stuff. So I hope that reaches all of your audience. If they have any questions about Swim Bike Run Fun, shoot you an email or drop a comment here. I'm an open book. I really want to take a moment and acknowledge you and all the work that you do, because you and your wife make a big effort of making sure that beginners and women have a seat at the table, and that we talk about things that are necessary for getting more people involved in the sport, younger people involved in the sport, people of Caribbean background, white background, doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that everybody comes. And I don't think you get enough recognition for all the hard work you do and all the people that you're connecting. So I just want to take a time, and I hope the audience take a time and drop you with a few hearts and emojis at the same time as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. For everybody who has joined us, really appreciate you. We have a full slate of Fireside Chats for the entire month of May, and we've already got the first 3 weeks, I think, of June booked as well. So every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, join us on Instagram Live for these Fireside Chats. We'll be bringing you race directors like Camille. We'll be bringing you athletes. We'll be bringing you small business owners, dietitians, sports psychologists, everything to help you with the world of endurance sports. Go follow at Swim Bike Run Fun on Instagram and all the other platforms. Check out their website. If you've got clothes to donate, it's also on the website as well via the P.O. Box. And for those of you in the Austin, Texas and surrounding areas, event on June 5th. And if you can't race, volunteer. Camille needs them, and there's probably no better person to work with on race day. Camille, I can talk to you for hours on end, and every time we chat, I laugh. So thank you very much for everything that you do for the community and getting people involved in endurance sports. And we look forward to chatting with you again real soon.
I know this is unconventional, but can I share one more thing?
Yeah, please do.
As triathletes, you know those swim caps you get, and they latex and they rip easy, and you'd never pay it no mind. As a race director, that was the most shocking cost expense I have sourced. I don't care whether you're buying 1,000 or you're buying 5. Those things are of value. So the next swim cap you get, treat with respect.
I'm going to start not using one with this bald head of mine. I save the expense for the race directors and just put my number on my head.
As an athlete, you just, I hate latex caps, but you don't appreciate it. And it's one of those things that I think as athletes, as triathletes and aquabikers, we underappreciate. I just want to make sure now we put some respect on it, because I'm like, wait.
Always appreciate your honesty. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk again soon. Have a good night.
Bye, Jason.
Bye.